And what's up? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 140 of RickCast. Great to see everybody here tonight. Yeah, pickings are getting slim as far as live shows are concerned, aren't they? People are starting to duck out. I just saw Jason Whitlock say after this week he's taking 2 weeks off. Now I get it. Those guys put in a lot of work. This show won't. We will be going through right on. The only time I'm gonna have to take some time off. Actually, no, because I'll do the shows from Houston. I'll have a couple shows from Houston. I got to go back down there for my father-in-law. But this show continues, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a show for you. I know it's called RickCast, but it's only because I got to name it something. The only reason RickCast works as a show is because you, the audience, in the comment section, part of my bar rats, you guys make this show better. I give you my thoughts, and then you jump in with your comments, with your questions, with your statements, your opinions on the subject, and you make it better than I ever could. So thank you for hanging out with me tonight on this July 1st. I haven't changed it yet, so Sacred Heart still stays because Sacred Heart is forever. But it is actually a different month now. If you are into the monthly flag, or the different months for Catholics. We have every month we do something different because why not? This month, July, is dedicated to the precious blood of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. There's an amazing flag. You can get over at tradflags.com and check them out and see what you can get out of that. Now, let's see. Tonight, we got drama. We still got drama. This big, beautiful BS bill, or whatever you want to call it, is still circling the drain of Washington, D.C., and it's just trash. Yeah, it's trash. It doesn't do anything for us. Now, I will give this. The Senate barely passed it, 51-50, even though everybody wanted J.D. Vance to come riding in on his white horse and save the Short Act and the HPA, which guess what? J.D. Vance does not care about you. Sorry, MAGA. He doesn't care about you. I know this is a sensitive subject, and I know he took a picture with an AR once, and we were like, oh, he's so cool. Look at him with his AR. Yeah, he don't care about you. Guess what, folks? He's a politician. He's a politician trying to get elected. Ergo, he's going to take a picture with an AR-15 and pretend that he's pro-Second Amendment. Oh, he was a Marine. Great. Thank you for your service. I'm not one of these people that says you're not a combat guy. You actually went into the theater of war, so you're not going to get any theater of combat. You're not going to get any argument from that. But the fact that you guys are like, oh, he's going to be pro blah, 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 blah. Nope. Dean's right. He wants to be 48. And the last thing he's going to do is do anything that's going to upset the soccer moms, and getting rid of suppressors, because every soccer mom has watched one bad episode of like Law and Order SVU where somebody uses a suppressor, goes pew, 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 pew. So they're like, oh, they're so scary. So they're never going to get rid of that. And the short barrel rifle thing, they'll tell them with school shootings, and they'll be like, oh, we can't do that either. So that ain't happening. At least it's not going to happen under JD's watch. JD ain't going to do that. But the House, I will give the House credit. They've got like 400 amendments they want to put back into this big, beautiful bill. So this thing is not going to go as quickly as they want, and I'm good with that, because the Senate's version of the big, beautiful BS is just that. It's BS. So as Ken Watanabe, I think I said his name right, from the first Godzilla movie, the good one, I think it was in 2014. Let them fight. Let the House and the Senate fight. Let them take 6 weeks. I don't care. Doesn't bother me. Yeah, they did remove the AI exemption, and they did do the pro-life stuff with Planned Parenthood. No problems on that. And so for now, they got rid of the land grab bill. Totally fine. So at least with the abortion one, I'm happy about that. Obviously, pro-life is the biggest issue for me. And then pro-gun. Those are my issues. Some say you're single. I'm a 2-issue voter. Are you going to get rid of abortion, and are you going to let me have my guns? We can argue about taxes and all these other kinds of things. I don't really care. But those are the two most important things to me. So we'll talk about that. Pope Francis lied. That's according to a new report. that's out there. Of course, there's good things and there's bad things with this. The good thing is that it pretty much clears the runway for whenever, and I say whenever because it's probably gonna be a couple years, for Pope Leo the 14th to suspend Traditionis Custonis or undo it or whatever he's going to do. We'll talk about how Pope Francis's actions and how this document was leaked will allow Pope Leo the 14th to continue giving exemptions, and eventually, I don't think it's, and I know the trads are not gonna, I mean, I know the TLM guys are not gonna like, I don't think you're getting a reprieve on Traditionis Custonis for a couple years. I do not think Leo is coming out in his first 2 years and doing something like that. Because I still think he's got to get his guys in place, which is why I believe when we see all these things happening, like, oh, look at this cardinal and this mass is being created, I think all of those things were put into motion by Francis and they're just being played out. This first year, and I'm saying this legitimately, this first year, I don't even think you can chalk up a lot of the things that are happening to Leo. Now, I'm sure guys like Anthony Stein and smarter men than me who know how the Vatican works will say, Rick, that's not really how this works. It's his shop. He's running it. And I get that and I understand it. And I guess that's maybe just me coping. But I think it's going to be, the Vatican is not a speedboat. The Vatican is an aircraft carrier, to put it bluntly. And to turn that sucker around, even to not all the way right like we would want it to be, even to turn it back to the center is going to take some time. So we'll talk about that when we talk about Pope Francis. The Diddy verdict, at least partially, is in. We haven't talked about it because I don't really care, but we'll at least cover it because it did happen today. We at least got a partial verdict on that. So we will discuss that as well. And then the Running Man trailer starring Glenn Powell, who I really like, has been dropped. It comes out in November. My Catholic brothers and sisters, you're going to want to dip out before I play the trailer because there is some, it's not safe for work. And I don't want to scandalize you guys by doing that. So I will tell you before the trailer, if you're not big on offensive language, our Lord's name is taken in vain. There is a GD in it. So I will advise you to dip out as to not scandalize you. I don't want to scandalize you at all. And I'll make sure I tell you that before we actually start. So that is our show tonight. Once again, tomorrow night, Wednesday, I will do the show. And then I'm happy to announce, let me see if I can get this set up. I should have done this before, but if you're new to this show, you're silly because I don't do things well or effectively. I kind of just do them as I please because it's my show. But I am happy to announce tonight that I will be a guest on nope, you can go away now. My new entrance. Y'all like my new entrance music? I like it, so that's all that matters. So I'm going to be on Crash Cannon tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. And I'm very, I'm always shocked and honored when people ask me to be on their shows. So I will be on Crash Cannon at 7:30 tomorrow night. And we will be hanging out and talking about whatever he wants to talk about with me. And he's a new channel, so go check him out. Really good feedback from people on him. So take a look at that and get ready because I will be there tomorrow night. So obviously it doesn't matter about anybody else. It only matters, now that I am there, that's all that really matters. So check it out tomorrow night. I will remind you then. And then Friday, everybody else is taking the day off from work. This guy's not. Sorry. I'm going to be hanging out. I invite you to hang out with me on the 4th of July, same time, 6 p.m. Central. We'll do a quick recap of the news of the day. I don't know if there'll be a lot. But then we'll do stuff like patriotic movies and whatever else I'll open it up to you guys, whatever else you all want to talk about that night. And we'll just have some fun on the 4th of July. By the way, I guess I'll get back into this again. Well, you know what? You beat me to it. And I'm not trying to throw shade at people that ask this question. It's an overall thing. I know Catholic Comedy asked this question, and I adore Catholic Comedy. I think the guy is fantastic. He does great work. Obviously, the comedy and stuff. I think his vocation is sorely needed today in Catholicism. But he asked the question about, can we eat meat on the 4th of July? Now, I'm not throwing shade at him. I'm going to extract that question and put it to the broader Catholic community. Why are we such wussies when it comes to having to skip meat on a Friday? It's just a question. And it's not just Catholic comedy. It's during Lent when St. Patrick's Day comes up. And everybody's always crying like, I could have a roast beef sandwich. It's like, can we not be a little bit tougher and not have meat on one day? Can we not put our Catholicism above the American religion? These are just my thoughts. They're not aimed at Catholic comedy. Once again, they're really not aimed at anybody. These are just Rick Barrett's thoughts on this idea. We want to talk about being tough and sacrificing for our Lord and really being traditional and all of these other things. But as soon as we can't eat meat one day, we just crumple. We fold like an accordion. And I just want to ask you, why is that, my fellow Catholics? Why do you feel the need to have to cry and complain about not getting meat on one day out of the week? Oh, have it on Saturday and Sunday. Have it on Thursday. Can you really not go one day without shoving meat down your throat hole on a Friday? We're really not supposed to do it anyway. But like I said, some priests have given dispensation on that. And if your priest has done that, go your own way. Don't listen to me. Not that many of you would, but just that's my question. I know there are certain podcasters that went after people during Lent because I'll just call it. I know Anthony from Avoiding Babylon. I don't want to be a passive aggressive bitch. Anthony from Avoiding Babylon went after people on Sundays during Lent because that what you were breaking the fast. Him and I went back and forth. We've already cleared that. I'm just saying he brought that up. I don't know what Anthony's opinion on eating meat on Friday is. I really don't care. But I'm just saying we want to do these things. Maybe Anthony agrees with me. Maybe he doesn't think you should eat meat on Friday. If that is cool, if his priest gives him a dispensation and he wants to eat meat on Friday, I don't care. I just want to ask, why are we so hell-bent on trying to be traditional in certain ways, but then with a minor inconvenience, which is don't eat meat on a Friday. The 4th of July is on a Friday. Don't eat meat on that Friday. We still have a huge problem with it. Mark, I'll tell you this, Mark. 2 Fridays ago, I made a breakfast taco. I made an egg, cheese, and bacon taco for breakfast. And I was done with the taco, and I went, it's Friday, isn't it? So it happens to me too. I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal. I've made that mistake as well. I actually just did it recently. So the idea is it's just not trying to be, even though I'm Schrodinger's reputation, everybody says, oh, you're ruining your reputation, but then everybody says my reputation sucks. I don't mind. I'm a curmudgeon. It's fine. I'm almost 44 years old. Let me be a curmudgeon. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be it. So it might as well be me. So the idea is, can I just push back a little bit on people? And once again, this is not about Catholic comedy. He just asked the question. It's kind of like he just asked an innocent question. And I went, oh, I turned into the angry emoji from Inside Out, which is pretty much like my spirit animal. But the fact of the matter is, I just really want to ask y'all, why can't we take a day? Why can't we offer up the 4th of July and not have meat and say, I'm a Catholic American. My Catholicism is more important than the 4th of July. So I'm not going to eat meat that day. That's it. That's just it. So that's my thing. I'm not eating meat on that Friday. And I'm working all day that Friday. There's by the way, if you're in Central Texas and you want to go to Sendero Shooting Sports, we're having Machine Guns of Freedom that day because we are Class 3 dealer and we have machine guns and we're going to shoot them. And you should go. Sendero Shooting Sports in Belton. I'll be there. Hope you'll be there too. So, I'm going to be working all Friday. There's probably going to be hot dogs and burgers everywhere. And I'm just going to have to be like, nah, man, sorry. Okay. This is a very interesting, problem. You're at mom's barbecue and you know what? I know it. I know it because I've dealt with that too. I've dealt with family where they don't get the fact that I don't eat meat outside of I'm like, oh, it's Friday. They go, yeah, but it's not Lent. Okay. Now, Michael, there's the Benedictine rule. I think I know my buddy Jason, he's very good on this. The Benedictine rule, if you go to someone's house and you go to that house and that is what they're providing, you should, out of respect, eat what they provide. The only exemption is during Lent. But you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure there are smarter people than I do. I think it's called the Benedictine rule. But we did this when I used to participate and help the guys at the Martyrs Walk, because the YMCA, they're not Catholic, and Young Christians Association, but they're not Catholic. So they're like, what's the meal Friday? Oh, it's going to be eggs, sausage, and bacon. And since we were running guys through the whole thing, Jason said, hey, the Benedictine rule is in effect. Eat whatever you need to eat because that's what's provided. Now, of course, when we did it during Lent, we were like, guess what, boys? Time to suffer. So it's just a different thing. So, Michael, you have not an excuse, but you have a unique situation. And maybe you're looking at me like, Rick, I got to go to family. And the rest of my family don't believe that. If you go to somebody's house and that's what they're serving, you're not the Benedictine rule is in effect. So yeah, Catholic Jedi, I get it. That's what I said. I've been there too. In my family, both sides are Catholics, but they look at me as if I'm like David Koresh when I'm like, oh, well, it's Friday, so I don't eat meat and I don't eat an hour before. I do all these, and they're like, oh, yeah, I know, religious extremist. So I get it, guys. I do. I am in the same boat as you, which is why I guess I'm so emphatic or emphasizing it so dearly. All right. Let's get to a couple of KO as KOC fish is better. I actually have never, I'm a first degree night. I never went higher than that. So I've never actually been to a fish fry. I don't know if that's what that says, but I've never been to one. So it is what it is in that regard. Yeah. So that's the whole Friday controversy. You can come on with me on Friday and we can complain together and we can talk about stuff together because I will be live hanging out with you guys. My wife will be, exhausted because she's up in DFW right now taking care of some stuff. So she's going to be like, I'm going to sleep. So we'll celebrate Saturday and Sunday because Saturday I got to take her to see F1. She really wants to go see it, and I'm going to take her to that. I know, Mark. I know. Bad night at Columbus. Bad night. Yeah. I should go to a first fry. I just don't. All right, let's get to some warm-ups. Let's see. Oh, Peter, real? Yeah, it's right. It is the first Friday. And isn't that kind of crazy? Isn't that hard when we're trying to be Catholics and we're trying to be good Catholics and we're trying to enrich ourselves in the faith, and our religious institutions are like, well, it's a holiday. We're taking the day off. What? Are you Catholic? We're Catholic Americans, right? Or are we American Catholics? In case we have that. I heard this in a homily from a Monsignor 10 years ago, and it was so good it stuck with me ever since, where he said you got to lay your priorities out, and part of how you identify yourself in this life, is how you introduce yourself. You're a Catholic and you're an American. Do you say you're an American Catholic, or do you say you're a Catholic American? Because whichever one you say first is the one you put priority to. And it's really, it's tough to say that kind of like, hey, let's go to mass. Oh, nobody's here because you guys are at a barbecue, but it's a first Friday and it's a first Saturday. There's going to be fireworks going off during the entire ceremony on Friday. That's right. That's right. Did you know they banned fireworks in LA this year? Well, they banned them because of immigration. I'm sure just like in COVID, they'll do the same thing and they'll make it pretty good. That's right, Catholic Jedi, right here too. Catholic first, Texas second. I only have A&M because my wife went to A&M, and that's how I identify as a Texan. I'll get a flag back here eventually sometime. I think that's the only Texas thing. Oh no, really? My allegiance, obviously, I'm a Texan. Buc-ee's for life, baby. Buc-ee's for life. I actually went to Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's has the little toy Buc-ee's, and my niece, who's in on the East Coast, she came to Texas. Remember when I took a couple days and I did that? They have little, like, during the seasons, they have like Independence Buc-ee and Halloween Buc-ee. And she sent me a message the other day. She's like, "Can you get me an Independence Buc-ee?" So I had to go up there on Monday. So I got myself some pecans, some cinnamon pecans. Delicious. Yes. Yep, that's right. Sacred Heart Devotion there as well. Our Lady on Saturdays. They don't even have mass. I don't mind. I have a Novus Order right up the street, 4 minutes away. They don't do first Fridays or first Saturdays. It's like, come on, man. Whatever. Yes. Well, Texas is a republic unto itself. All right, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. First off, sports related. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day to all who celebrate. If this teaches us anything, it's that future liabilities don't get cheaper with time, they just get dumber with interest. Thanks to the power of compound interest and port financial management, the Mets owe Bobby Bonilla $1.19 million every year until the year 2035 because they signed him to this ridiculous contract, and they wanted to get rid of him because he just kind of aged out, so they just stretched it. So, and this was like 10, 15 years ago. So the guy gets 1.1 million every year on July 1st. So congratulations, Bobby Bonilla, and happy Bobby Bonilla Day to all who celebrate. All right, next one up. Thousands in Norway told they won up to millions in a lottery error. Let's check out the Irish Independent and see where the story goes. Thousands in Norway shut up. Go away. No. It was a fun minute. Thousands in Norway celebrate lottery win before being told it was an error. Thousands of Norwegians were told that they had won the lottery and became millionaires after an error by the state-owned gambling operator. I'll tell you this much. If that happens, I'm going after it with those guys. I'm going after it. I am going. You told me I won $1 million. There's none of this nonsense where it's like, oh, sorry, it was a mistake. No, it was a mistake. Give me my $1 million, homie. So that was an interesting one as well. Let's talk about this one because I really want to talk about this one. I'm going to offend some people on this one. So Zohan Mandani did this gross thing where he ate like food. He did what people in the third world do, where they eat food with their hands, like out of rice. And it's just the grossest thing on the planet. It is. Nobody wants to see. Watch this grossness. Look at me eat this rice. Gross. What are you doing, man? Have some decency. And so everybody was like, this dude's disgusting. So Evan loves Worf, who by this picture, you can tell he's a real winner. Here's Evan. It's always in the eyes, isn't it? It's always in the eyes. Look at Evan here with the soy face. saying, well, actually, more people eat rice this way than there are Americans. Listen. So Evan loves Wharf. Brr, loser. Most of those people don't use toilets either, man. Most of those people don't have any idea. They do poo-poo in the street. You can't even go to India. You know what they don't have in India? They don't have, like, if you're a visitor, if you go to India for the culture and you got to do number twos, they have a basket where you put your tissue. You can't even flush it down the toilet. So you want to hear that this gross dude, by the way, this dude is not even like cultured because he went to a $60,000 a year private school. Like he's the same. He's essentially what's the girl from Houston? I can't believe he's Jasmine Crockett with a Muslim name, right? He's absolutely disgusting. And this whole thing, this third world nonsense here in these United States, you got to stop it. And this dude right here is a result of like Eat, Pray, Love books and all these other kinds of things where people are like, oh, it's so beautiful. Look at the culture. This is gross. This is gross. And then people are like, oh, you don't eat tacos. You eat tacos with your... Yeah, you were supposed to eat tacos with your hands. And you're supposed to eat pizza with your hands. Rice is not supposed to be cupped and go like, no. That's absolutely disgusting. And I don't want to hear this like cultural enrichment BS, Evan, with your little Hello Kitty doll. You think it's so good, you get a bowl of rice and you eat with your hands. There's a reason why you don't want to live in the third world. Because this is the practice. And India, I'm sorry, is a disgusting country. It is, with its caste system and the fact that they have all this money, but they can't even build sanitation. And it's built into them, into the culture there, which is, I'm sorry, not great. But you want to talk about this stuff. No one eats with their hands like him. You know why, Michael? I think you were saying it right. He said it up here. He's licking it out of his palm, not using his fingers. That's gross. It shows he's totally faking. Well, I mean, Michael, let me ask you this. Is that even acceptable? Is that even acceptable there? I don't think so. Now, Mark, I told this story yesterday that when my wife went to TCU for her master's, there were three, there was 4 or 5 people from India. I don't know, you call them Indians or whatever. 3 of them were awesome. They were, they were totally fine with washing of hands, eating correctly, doing all the things that we expect you do in a modern society. Why? Because they were Catholic. And that's why Catholicism built Western civilization. Catholicism, when you adopt it and it becomes part of what you are and what your being is it becomes normalized. So it is. Really? You're okay with people eating out of their hands like that? Totally. I'm sorry, I don't. Michael, I'm going to say you're more cultured than I am. I think it's gross. I do. And the fact that this is like supposedly some kind of cultural enrichment. And Michael, you have a point because you've got uncultural idiots like Evan being like, it's totally fine. It's all part of it. Nah, it's not. It's gross. It's gross and it's disgusting. Especially considering that the hygiene practices are not up to snuff. My brother-in-law worked in India for a couple of years because he was setting up, ironically enough, he was setting up call centers in India. And he was like, dude, it's awful over there. And he was in the nicest hotel. He was actually in the hotel that got attacked. He wasn't there when it happens, but that he stayed there when he was in Mumbai. He used to stay at that hotel. So it is what it is in that regard. I think it's gross. I think it's disgusting. I don't think it should be defended. And the fact that the left is going to defend it because the left thinks that they're going to import the third world, and the third world's just going to be, their slaves. They're going to import the third world, and the left is going to live this utopian society where they're going to get all this great street food and nothing's going to change. So it is what it is in that regard. It's not great. And I don't like the fact that it's being introduced, and I don't like the fact that it's trying to be normalized, that this type of stuff actually exists. I hate it. Bleh, bleh, that's what I think. Bleh. And I'll eat tacos with my hands all day, sucker. So that's right. That's right. Approved. That maybe that's another thing. I don't like Indian food. I don't like curry. So for me, Indian food is not like top of my list of things I like to eat. I know some people love curry, and I get it. And if you love curry, that's fine. I'm not even throwing hate on you. I just don't like Indian food. Then again, as we've discussed on this program time and time again, I have the palate of a 14-year-old boy. I've got 5 major food groups: pizzas, burgers, fries, Mexican food, and what was the last one? Something else like chicken nuggets, right? Like American food, like American bar food is essentially my palate. Anything above that, I go, too expensive, too high class for me. I've already told the joke. We'll go to the nicest restaurant, and my wife will be like, please don't get please don't get the turkey club, Richard. Please don't get the turkey. Like she's really had it with me when she's calling me by my full name. Like, Richard, don't get the turkey club. We're at a 4-star restaurant. I'm like, yeah, it's a 4-star turkey club, honey. So yeah, maybe my lack of having a decent palate makes me not cultured. I'm okay with it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely had some things to say about that, and it's gross. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our first story of the night. And that is the big, beautiful drama that took place today with the passing of the supposed big, beautiful bill, which the more you read about the supposedly, quote unquote, big, beautiful bill and all these other kinds of nonsensical things, the more you realize that nothing is changing. You can have, at least with Republicans in charge, you can have the House, you can have the Senate, you can have all these other things, and it's just the same old, same old. It's the same old garbage. Here's a little recap for you.
Weeks of tense negotiations and a marathon vote session lasting 27 hours as amendments to this bill were considered. The Senate has passed a legislation that is key to the president's agenda, with trillions in tax cuts, more spending for border security, and steep cuts to Medicaid among the key provisions. But it is now poised for a battle in the House. Touring an immigration facility in Florida Tuesday, President Trump found out the Senate passed his budget bill.
The big, beautiful bill just passed through the Senate.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Thank you.
The vote was 50-50, forcing Vice President J.D. Vance to cast a tiebreaker.
The Vice President.
Hold on. Let me get in here. Let me get in here. It's on my show. Let me get in here. As I told you guys, we did the gun thing yesterday. We talked about the HPA and the short barrel, the short act, how that was ripped out. And everybody was like, JD Vance, you could come in and you could override the parliamentarian and you could save the gun. No, he didn't. He just passed the bill. Y'all got to get through your head. JD Vance is not your buddy. He's not your pal. He does not like you. He's going to like you in 3 years in 2028 when he's trying to get your vote. And of course, gun owners are just writing this down, being like, okay, we'll remember that you guys are never there for us, that you promise you'll defend the Second Amendment, you're going to defend gun owners and blah, blah, blah. But when the time came, you passed on it because you want to be president, JD, and you don't want to do that nonsense.
In the affirmative, the bill as amended is passed.
3 Republican senators voted with Democrats against the bill. Susan Collins from Maine, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, and Rand Paul from Kentucky. Lisa Murkowski from Alaska was undecided, but switched to a yes vote Tuesday morning.
They chose to add more pork and subsidies for Alaska to secure that vote.
I don't really care. I'm with Rand on anything. If Rand doesn't want to vote for it, that's fine. I'm good with it. I love Rand Paul. So
Murkowski secured help to ease some of her state's burden for SNAP, the food assistance program, as well as tax cuts for Alaskan fishing villages and whaling captains.
So she got what
Senator Paul said that your vote was a bailout for Alaska at the expense of the rest of the country. That's what Senator Paul said.
I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska.
The fight over the president's budget bill now moves back to the House, where changes that were made on the Senate side could threaten its ultimate passage.
We are trying to do the basic math of understanding what the deficit's going to go up. And I've not heard one person irrefutably tell me that they're not going to be higher deficits over the next 5 years.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says he wants a vote Wednesday on the Senate bill, despite concerns from some of his members. The House Rules Committee is already working on the bill, the first step ahead of any possible vote. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson acknowledged today that there is still work to do for House Republicans to pass this bill, but the president is urging them to stay united and vote yes.
Marie? Anyway, let's hear a little bit more from everybody's favorite. I can't stand Chip Roy, but Chip Roy does break down what happened today with the big beautiful bill. I'm sorry I got to look at Glenn Beck's fat face, but it's the only thing I could find.
Unfortunately, Glenn, I believe it's gotten worse. Now, we've not seen the final product out of the Senate. We don't have the text. We've got to review it. I try to be level-headed through these things. I have enormously strong and good friends in the administration who in good faith want to see this pass, just as you do, just as I do, just as the American people do. They want to see us move forward legislation to make tax cuts permanent, to deliver on the border funding that we need. You know, Stephen Miller is a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. Russ Vought is a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. We've been working together in the trenches for as long as I can remember. We all want to deliver. The problem is the swamp is going to swamp. And right now we have a bill that, in my estimation, violates the House framework, but more importantly, would add significantly to the deficits. Now, we have differing views.
More than it did.
He's not.
More than it did, right?
By quite a bit, in my view. And look, there's going to be a debate about this, about tax cuts and revenues and all this stuff. And I get it. It's baselines, CBO, all these different things. I'm just telling you, Glenn, as objectively as I can, I look at the math and I look at how you factor in economic growth, which I'm doing, factor in revenues and expenditures, and what we're doing on mandatory spending, which is not enough. The fact that we're only repealing half of the Green New scam, if we're lucky. The fact that we're continuing to allow Medicaid to go to illegals because of some arcane Senate rules. The fact that we're continuing to allow Obamacare subsidies to fund transgender surgeries. The fact that we are going to, in my estimation, have probably a couple of trillion of deficit spending in the first 4 years, which means you're going to have more interest, which means it's going to stack up, all to get savings in the out 5 years. That's not what you and I signed up for. Now, I'm looking at this trying to say, okay, the president wants the tax cuts, so do I. The president wants borders, so do I. I think the president wants us to repeal the entirety of the Green New scam. I think the president wants us to get good reforms. Be careful, handle Medicaid appropriately and all of that for our American citizens that are vulnerable or depend on it. But we haven't delivered because the Senate has a bunch of people in it who don't want to deliver, and they're hiding behind the parliamentarian, and they're delivering us a subpar product that I didn't come to Washington to sign up for, Glenn.
All right, so that's one side, but let's bring in one of the few reps, like her or not. She's been out on front, at least telling us what's going on. MTG.
Medicaid away from American citizens and maybe still paying for illegal aliens. Is the House going to rubber stamp this? Is it going to be like a 24-hour turnaround? Ma'am?
I cannot imagine. No, I can't imagine they have the votes. There's no way that Johnson has the votes in the House for this. We're supposed to be back Wednesday morning to start voting at 9 a.m. I think that is not realistic. I just don't see how that's possible. So this is, I think it's far from over. It is really a dire situation. We're on a time clock that's been really set on us, so we have a lot of pressure. And then also given the fact that there's 435 members of Congress, and it's hard for us to get to an agreement on anything. So this whole thing is, I don't know what to call it. It's a show. And I'm sorry for saying that. I know we're not supposed to say that on the air, but that's truly what it is.
She's right. And Mark, I've made this argument before. I do appreciate the fact that she is a pit bull. I just wish there was a man who is willing to be like she is. I really do. Most of the men kind of cower. But this is funny. Check this out. This was from Jake Sherman. A little while at 4:30. The House Rules Committee has listed 438 amendments to the reconciliation bill. So they have 438 amendments that they want to put into the actual bill. All of these things by different people they want to put back in. So this thing is not getting passed before the 4th of July. I know everybody's saying, oh, it's going to get passed by the 4th. It ain't getting passed by the 4th. And for my gun owners out there, got to give it up to Representative Andrew Clyde. I was very hard on him. Not that he knew, but when he tweeted like, we have to do this, I said, that's not good enough. The rest of the gun community said it's not good enough. You have to get the repeal of the Short Act, and you have to get the repeal of suppressors off the NFA. This is the only time we have to get it done. This is the only time. If you put the tax stamp to 0, the Democrats will come in and put a $10,000 stamp on it the next time they have the chance to. This is a short-term gain for this whole idea. So credit, I'm on there. Credit to Representative Andrew Clyde. This guy's been a warrior. If you go back, he has an FFL. He's been targeted by the ATF. So he just introduced an amendment to the Senate-passed budget reconciliation bill to remove the NFA registration requirement for suppressors, SBRs, and all of these things. So, you know what? There's at least one guy. You got to give Andrew Clyde credit that he is at least fighting tooth and nail, and he's not giving up on it. And I got to give that one guy respect. He's the only guy that'll get the gun vote in his district. The rest of us, they could literally forget it. They could literally forget my vote. They can forget if they are going to try and come at me in GOA and NRA and FPC and Second Amendment Foundation. They all signed on to this whole zeroing out of the tax stamp. It's a 0 stamp. It's a win. You know why? Because if they get guns off, it's the same thing with the abortion thing that we talked about with Leela Rose and those guys last week. If abortion goes away, they don't have a job anymore. If they get SBRs and suppressors off of the NFA, that's one less thing they get to fundraise on. It's all a scheme. So they drop it to 0 and they say, we'll continue to fight for you guys. I don't want you to continue to fight for me. I want the stupid things off of the registry. I want suppressors and I want SBRs to be done via 4473 and call it a friggin' day. That's it. So I'm at least happy to see that he's putting it back in. And I think it's hysterical that there's 438 amendments that are ready to go in there. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful. And I think the House should 100% go to war with the Senate. Okay. I think the House should not rubber stamp it. I think the House should make it as miserable as possible. And I think they should send a message to the Senate and say, keep the stupid amendments that we put in there, because if you kick it back to us, we're just going to do it again until you get tired. So I'm happy with it. We'll see. I'm going to tell you, this thing's not getting passed before the 4th. I know Trump's going to want it passed because it's got his name on it. And really, Trump wants it passed because he wants the tax cuts, right? It'll put the tax cuts, it'll permanently enshrine the tax cuts, which is great. But on the other hand, it also will give him like $43 million or 80, some ungodly amount of money to do deportations, which I'm for. But I also want I want to be like a liberal at this point. I want my representatives to do what I want, what I sent them to do. Liberals, when they get in power, they do it. They do what their constituents want because they're usually in line, right? We want Obamacare. We want this. We want that. We're going to shove it down people's throats because that's what we want. Republicans or conservatives or people that voted for those people, we want that stuff too. We want our representatives to do it. We want our people that we send to Washington, D.C. to actually vote for the stuff we want. And that's not giving Medicaid to illegal aliens. That's not, I want somebody to throw in remittance. I want to jack that remittance tax back up to 20%, not 1%. I want a remittance tax to be 20%. That's what I want. So we'll see. That's the thing. Will Trump get impatient? I don't care if Trump's not running again. I don't care if he's getting that. So we'll see what happens. But at this point, I'm happy with it. I am joyful that the House is going to go into war with the Senate. That's how checks and balances are supposed to work. That's how they're supposed to work. The House is not supposed to rubber stamp whatever the Senate says just because they say it. So forget them. And so I love this drama. I think it's great, so let's just do it. Let's put these people to the grindstone and let's get what we want into this bill. Now, Mark is saying it doesn't matter because we're all going to go where the entire thing's going to fall apart anyway. Yes, Mark, if the entire thing's going to fall apart anyway, let me get a short-barreled rifle and a couple suppressors before it happens. Right? let me get a couple of those things before it happens. So that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I have a right to suppressors and short barrel rifles. And you people shouldn't, no liberal should say otherwise or say that I shouldn't have the ability to get them. All right. Next story. So that was one. Here's the second one. This one hit X like an absolute ton of bricks. And Catholics were like, oh, we're having a good week. What? What happened? This happened. So all credit to Diane Montenegro, her Substack. I'll put it in the chat if you want to go check it out and read it for yourself. Because I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm actually going to go to Regina Chaley because they do a nice summary of it. But she dropped a Moab, right? She dropped a Moab on the Catholic internet community today. And so, Lou, check out this article after I read about it because I'm not going to read the whole thing. And so, exclusive official Vatican report exposes major cracks in the foundation of Traditionis Custodes. Now, Traditionis Custodes, which we'll talk about in a second, is the thing that suppresses the Latin Mass. So let's go to Regina Chaley. Journalist obtains exclusive report to World Report on Summum Pontificum. I'm an idiot. You know what it is. Pope Francis' restrictions were based on lies. Now, Catholic Jedi, doesn't surprise. No, it doesn't surprise me considering the type of agenda that Francis wanted to push. Right? That he wanted to push. Try to be as respectful to the Holy Father when he was alive, but the man tried to change. He tried to push the church in a direction that doesn't fit with the teachings of the church. So, American journalist Diane Montenegro, who has long covered the Vatican, obtained an exclusive document. Now, the first question we can ask is, and this is all speculation on my part, so take it with a grain of salt. This is just me workshopping with the audience. Do you think somebody in Leo's circle dropped this to her? to kind of throw out. And once again, all speculation. This is just me thinking out loud, which is dangerous. Because what has been Robert Cardinal Burke went to Pope Leo the 14th and said, please lift the restrictions on the Latin Mass. You know, a very loud contingent on social media from the American side. You know, Holy Father, help us lift the restrictions on the Latin Mass, especially after what happened in Charlotte. Detroit suffered a blow last night. They lost their Latin Mass. Tulsa, in Illinois, I believe, all these other things. Do you think Leo might have dropped this? Leo might have said, hey, get this to somebody you trust to give people an idea. So if they've had this, who's had it? When the famous phrase, Peter, is who's they? Who's they? Right? Who's the one that's they? So she obtained this report, an original summary and report of the global assessment of the application of Summorum Pontificum, the 2007 document by Pope Benedict XVI that freed the traditional Latin Mass and liturgy. All it essentially said was that there was no need to ask permission to do the Latin rite. Any Catholic church can do it. Any Roman Catholic church can do it. That's all. That's really what Pope Benedict said. Don't have to ask us anymore. Go. So what would lead you to think that Burke and them had this for a while? I'm not even being a jerk. I'm going back and forth. That's what makes the show well. I'm asking you this question. Summorum Pontificum itself foresaw a report in order to adjust any issues with implementation, and the report now was obtained with a generally positive note, as Montenegro reported. The previously undisclosed text, which forms a crucial part of the official report by the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith on its 2020 consultation of bishops concerning Summorum Pontificum, reveals that, quote, the majority of bishops who responded to the questionnaire stated that making legislative changes would cause more harm than good. That is the official document, the official questionnaire that went out. The questionnaire was, what do you think about doing restrictions? And they all came back and they said, don't do anything. Don't do anything. Stop it. You know, it's going to cause more harm. And as we've seen with the implementation of Traditionis Custodes, it has. The overall assessment directly contradicts, therefore, the stated rationale for imposing Traditionis Custodes and raises serious questions about its credibility. All right? That's the whole thing, as we say here. So, on July 16th, 2021, Pope Francis promulgated Traditionis Custodes. He said the response to the questionnaire, quotes, reveals a situation that preoccupies and saddens me and persuades me of the need to intervene. Regrettably, he said in the letter, the pastoral objective of my predecessors has often been seriously disregarded. An opportunity offered by St. Pope John Paul II, and with even greater magnanimity by Pope Benedict XVI, was exploited to widen the gap, reinforce the divergences, and encourage disagreements that injure the church and block her path and expose her to the perils of division. So ironically enough, Pope Francis said that bringing in the Latin Mass would cause further division. So it's very interesting that he would use those words. As Regina Caeli states, we all knew that this report was probably more positive than negative because we could all see with our own eyes the very positive developments that were on the ground. Greater reverence, increased respect in the celebration of the Novus Ordo. Because the idea was, if you have the Latin Mass there, then it's going to reflect onto the Novus Ordo, and you will get a more reverent Novus Ordo by default. If the priest, like in a diocese, and if a diocesan priest is doing the Latin Mass, then he's going to, just by habit, do the Novus Ordo in a more positive and respectful way. And the gradual end of the painful separation between Catholics now living in the same parish. There were negative issues as it happened with any human endeavor, but they far outweighed the positive aspects. I think the official report, if she has this here. So there were 7 key takeaways from the assessment. 7 key takeaways from the assessment. Lack of liturgical peace and unity is due more to minority of bishops, as somebody mentioned in the chat, McCarrick, Supich, who, by the way, met with Pope Leo XIV today, and it sounds like he may be retiring. So Pope Leo, he still hasn't appointed a bishop for our diocese yet, but I hope, he'll get around to it when he gets around to it. So there'll be another one. A lot of people are starting to bang the drums. Maybe Bishop Barron gets the call to go to Chicago. You can celebrate that or not. That's just stuff in the air. There's nothing to confirm that. Where liturgical peace is lacking, the report shows it stems more from a level of nuisance, prejudice, and resistance of a minority of bishops to Summorum Pontificum than from any problem drawn to the actual rite. The CDF report recalls Benedict XVI to his desire to achieve, through the implementation of this document, Summorum Pontificum, an intellectual liturgical reconciliation within the church, and his recognition of the need to proceed not according to the hermeneutic, I can't say that word because I'm stupid, you all know that, of rupture, but rather by renewal in the continuity of tradition. So that's the first one. You could, like I said, you can read all these. I dropped the link in the chat. The second one, majority of bishops who implemented Summorum Pontificum expressed satisfaction with it. And the third, bishops are grateful for the competence of the CDF fourth section, the disbanded Pontifical Commission Ecclesiastical Dei. For the report confirmed attraction of young people to the older form of liturgy, which if you've ever been to a Latin Mass, you understand that. Younger people are attracted to it. As the famous line from, who's the guy who played Padre Pio? I can't believe I forgot his name. Shia LaBeouf. Remember that famous interview he had with with Bishop Barron, with Archbishop Barron, when he said, "I feel like I'm being sold a used car when I go to the Novus Ordo." That kind of was the phrase everybody uses. Number 5, report highlighted growth of vocations in ex-Ecclesia Dei communities since Summorum Pontificum. 6, report recommends studying both forms of Roman Rite as part of seminary formation. And number 7, recommended let the people be free to choose. Based on the findings of the survey, citing a Filipino bishop, the CDF report concludes by recommending, quote, let the people be free to choose, unquote, and recalling a bishop's irreplaceable, albeit sometimes challenging role and duty to perform before God to tend to the flock. The report ends with Pope Benedict XVI's word to the bishops of France, which you guys can read. So this idea is, all right, since the report was the basis of the limitations and the plan of gradual extinction of the traditional Latin Mass, which we saw try to be put into overdrive in Charlotte, and that's another thing that I'm putting random puzzle pieces together, so you can think I'm crazy or not. Let me know in the comment section. That's why the famous, the Bishop of Charlotte got the call. And I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a Latin Mass in San Marcos, which is about 2 hours away from me. They got a 2-year extension. I'm seeing, maybe because I have rose-colored glasses on because I love Pope Leo XIV, I'm seeing Pope Leo setting up the chessboard saying, I will get to the Latin Mass, guys. I'm not going to get to it this year. He probably won't get to it for a couple years, but he's, if somebody is asked, he will give permission as long as he needs to. Now, if a bishop restricts it, you're going to have to, it sucks for me to say this, and I'm sorry I have to say it like this. You're just going to have to deal with it for now. I don't think Pope Leo is going to take the first 2 years and drop a major bombshell by reversing something like this. I think he will. Maybe in 3 years. I don't know. If you think that's ridiculous, let me know in the comment section down below. But I don't think he's going to get to it immediately. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. but I think he's got more, you could see he's very much enthralled with the idea of communicating with the Orthodox as much as possible, which is a great thing, which, by the way, Orthobros, when the schism is healed, and, may not be under Pope Leo, if it's ever healed, Orthobros, you're going to have to submit to Rome. Just get over that. I know it's like a dirty thing. You're going to have to submit to Rome. Just get that through your head. Eventually, you're going to have to. He seems like that's kind of what he's trying to press right now. And I think he's just trying to get his house in order. So we'll see how that goes. I might be wrong. Beat me up in the comments if you think I'm just saying whatever, but well, there's also a lot of things. I know Anthony Stein did something about because France has changed some things in the law as well. He did a bunch of other stuff that we didn't know about that Leo's going to have to undo. It's not just like he can write. I mean, he probably could just say, everybody gets a Latin mass, go. But I think, remember, he's a lawyer and he's a mathematician. So he is not one to go flying off the cuff. He's not going to do anything until all his I's are dotted and T's are crossed. That's something, I don't think it's an excuse. I think it might be a fact of life. I just mentioned it. I just mentioned that I think Pope Leo will eventually either reverse Traditionis Custodes or kind of, get rid of it, because you see things like the call he made in Charlotte to tell the bishop to back off. And then he gave the 2-year extension to who asked for it. If you ask for an extension, I think it looks like Pope Leo is going to grant it. He's going to be more than happy to grant it. Now, if the bishop says, well, I'm going under Traditionis Custodes and I'm banning the Latin Mass in my parish, the Pope, I mean, it's not really, I don't know. Do you think the Pope's going to call him and be like, don't do that? I don't think that's the kind of Pope Leo is. I don't think that's kind of how it is, where it goes. So it's very hard to go against their predecessors due to the belief, the continuity that we as Catholics believe the duty of the bishops of Rome to preserve and protect. Yeah, there's a lot of things. It's an uphill battle that Leo's going to have to do, which is why I don't think it's going to happen within the next couple years. I think he is going to put together a commission. I mean, wasn't that kind of what we saw? He's a moderate in a lot of things. He does want unity. He's been using Latin in pretty much all of his masses. He's been demonstrating that. So I don't think he's the kind of guy. I'm borrowing this line from Anthony. He's not going to pull out the flaming sort of Saint Michael and cast down thy enemies and all these other kinds of things. He's gonna. It's a different Vatican. So, well, he postponed it to October. Let's see what happens in October, right? Maybe the thing with October is that was the previous original agreement. So I don't know. I think once it goes to October and the bishop does what he wants, I don't think Leo's going to step in, because that bishop will have that right as bishop in that diocese once that agreement expires. Establishes by Francis document Traditionis Custodes, ghost written by radical liturgist Andrea Grillo for Francis. We know that the document itself, in addition to being doctrinally illegitimate, since it claims to extinguish what no pope can extinguish, because that's what we know. It's in the missal. It's granted to us. We've already covered that. And then Pope Benedict pretty much said you can't get rid of it. Pope Benedict said you can't get rid of the mass. So that's one thing. It also procedurally illegitimate and inept, based on lies, deception, for all those things. So, Latin, but the Latin Mass is being shut down. What we just talked about, he just extended it in 2 years and saying that's not true all the way around. So that, just think about that. It's not being shut down everywhere. Yeah, it's being shut down by bishops that want to shut it down. Remember, bishops operate, they're their own independent regions. The bishops can kind of do as long as it's within the framework. And unfortunately, right now, Traditionis Custodes is within the framework. So they're not doing anything outside the lines. And remember, he's a canon lawyer, so he's not gonna step out on that. But we have this being released. We have the extension in San Marcos, and the release is actually going to put a real bend in a lot of bishops who are going to be trying to do this, because questions are going to be put out there like, hey, this is, was this done under false pretenses and all these other things. That's why I'm thinking, and once again, I could be completely wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below. Somebody from Leo's team dropped this to her and said, yeah, put this out there. Put this out there. Because he's the only, how else from that. So it is what it is on that regard. So it is an interesting thing. I know a lot of people are going to be like, see, it's illegitimate. Pope Leo, get rid of it now. And all I'm saying here is I think you're setting yourself up for failure if you're expecting Pope Leo to act instantly on this, because that's just not, it doesn't seem like that's going to be Pope Leo's style, Pope Leo the 14th style. I just don't think it is. I think honestly, maybe maybe a paper trail will start to develop that will give the commission the ability to do these things. So there can be no questioning. Guys, when this happens now, which I think it will, you can't say, well, Traditionis Custodes, because we have proof. We have proof now that it is done. It was done under false pretenses. So we'll see. But it was an interesting article. Interesting to hear people break it down. I'm sure the naysayers will be like, it doesn't matter, so they'll just still enact it. I don't think that's the case. I think it's the first domino that's being set up for when Traditionis Custodes is eventually moved out of the way. This will be used as part of that. Any lawyer knows you can't go to bat on something. You can't tell a lawyer, here's one piece of evidence, go to court. The lawyer is going to go, this is a great piece of evidence, but I need 3 things to back up this piece of evidence. That's just, any good lawyer is going to tell you that. So it is what it is. It doesn't usually, I made the analogy, you weren't here, Bellator. The Vatican is not a speedboat. The Vatican is an aircraft carrier. And you cannot turn an aircraft carrier quickly. This is not the movie Battleship where you drop the anchor and it does it drifts in the water. That doesn't happen in real life. So trying to turn the Vatican ship is going to take time. And like I said this once, if you're new, if you just joined us, I said this in the beginning of the show. You can say I'm wrong. I completely understand why you think it is. This is just how I'm approaching it. This first year and look, this massive creation and this person over here and then blah, 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 blah. I don't think you can expect a pope to do anything in his first year, because the Pope Leo the 14th trying to get his people in place, trying to get his feet wet, and trying to figure out who he can trust and who he can't. Right? Because it is a bureaucracy in there. So I'm giving you the reasons why that there's a bit of a waiting. So I wish the mass was, I wish Traditionis Custodes was gone tomorrow, guys. I'm in the same boat you are. I have a church 4 minutes away from me, and I drive 45 minutes to Baylor to go to the Latin Mass. You know how easier it would be in my life if the Latin Mass was 3 minutes away, 4 minutes away? It'd be great. We're not there yet. So I think it was a very interesting thing. I think there was a deliberate reason why it was dropped. I think the stage is being set. The paper trail is being set. The dominoes are being set for this to be done. So welcome to politics. As much the Catholic Church is infallible. Holy Mother Church is infallible. Our Lord and Savior established it. Unfortunately, the men that run the Vatican are not infallible. And so they are going to be set to things. There's a reason why most of us in this who watch this show or are, in these circles, we love the real Saint Nicholas, because he just punches out heretics. We're kind of far away from that at this time. So, yeah, Pastor Bob can do whatever he wants. We're not Pastor Bob. So it is what it is. So yeah, it is one of those things that, remember, Francis didn't do anything against the Latin Mass for 8 years. He was appointed in 2012, right? If my math is right, and he didn't do anything until 2021. So he couldn't even he had to get his people in place before they did that. I don't think it's going to take 8 years. 2013, sorry. Yeah, so like 8, well, that would track 2013 to about 8 years. 8-9 years. So even still, it took time before Pope Francis did it. So it's going to take time, and it's harder to undo something than to do it. It's going to be harder to undo it than do it, because there's going to be a lot of resistance from that small minority of bishops that are still there. Remember, Supich is retiring, apparently. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see. Cardinal Sup. I'm an idiot. I don't know why. I always want to say Kupchik because I don't know how to say things, but so just take this from Michael Haynes. Pope Leo received Cardinal Supich in a private audience. Supich is 76 and submitted his resignation of his position in Chicago. There's also the theory, and Steve Cunningham is big on this, that the group that put all this stuff in place are going to retire out soon. So Cunningham, if you ask him, he's like, guys, these people are going to retire out. Once they retire out, Leo can pretty much do whatever he wants. And I get it. I'll say it 1,000 times. I get it. It sucks that the Latin Mass is being restricted in a place like, have you seen the basilica that they celebrate the Latin Mass in Detroit? It's unbelievable. It's gorgeous. And now that it's going to be gone. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. So we'll see. Very interesting today. And obviously we discuss and debate and talk about it. And I love it. I love it here on RickCast. And I love the fact that you guys bring so much to the table. So thank you for that. So we'll see that. Let's move on to our next story. Sean Combs' jury reaches partial verdict, will deliberate deliberate further. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to give you a video because, videos are good. Let me see. Let me find it here. Here it is. Video time.
This is a Fox News alert. The jury has reached a verdict in the high-profile Sean Diddy Combs trial. The rapper faces charges of racketeering, 2 counts of sex trafficking, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he could face life in prison. So let's go right now to Fox News national correspondent CB Cotton, who's outside the courthouse. CB.
Hey, Will, this 2-month-long trial, which included nearly 7 weeks of witness testimony, has gotten us to this point. Just before 4:30 this afternoon, local time, jurors came back with a note. And we've just learned that jurors say they are unable to reach a verdict on count 1, racketeering conspiracy, but they have reached a consensus on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right now, we've learned from inside the courtroom the defense wants the jury to keep deliberating and does not want to take a partial verdict. We're waiting to see how prosecutors will respond to this major update from here in the ongoing federal sex trafficking trial. But right now, we've learned jurors are unable to reach a verdict on count 1, racketeering conspiracy. It is the most serious charge in this case. If if jurors were to find Diddy guilty of that charge, it would be a sentence of life in prison. Counts 2, 3, 4, and 5 encompass the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Jurors so far have had lots of questions for the judge. A total of 6 notes, I believe, have been sent out from the courtroom. Jurors asking various things on the law, asking to review more pieces of testimony. Today, early this afternoon, jurors wanted to review the details shared by ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura on the witness stand about Diddy assaulting her at that Los Angeles hotel back in 2016, which was captured in some really disturbing surveillance video. The judge allowed jurors to be sent back with portions of testimony before and after that incident. Jurors also wanted to review some testimony from male escort Daniel Phillip. You may remember he was one of the first witnesses for the prosecution, and he testified about witnessing at least 2 times that he says he saw Diddy assaulting Cass. He said either saw or heard it happen twice. He also testified that he was paid hundreds to thousands of dollars to have sex with Cassie while Diddy watched. Will, if I may, I want to go back to my email and just see if there are any more updates from the courtroom. I'm seeing another email right now. I want to read this to our viewers as we're on the air. The judge says they have 3 options. The jury can continue its deliberations, or jury can continue its deliberations and he can give them some version of an Allen charge. I know you're a lawyer, Will, so I want to share with our viewers who may not be familiar with an Allen charge. It's where the judge instructs the jury to go back and continue deliberations on all of the counts. This is a 5-count federal indictment. The second option, the judge says the jury can give a partial verdict, which again, we've now learned that the jurors have reached a consensus on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the third option, according to the judge, is apparently, let me read through this, third option not being considered at this time. The judge is only okay, so the third option is apparently not even on the table, according to this latest note from the courtroom. The judge right now is only weighing whether jurors should continue deliberations or he should give an Allen charge. The defense is fighting to keep the jury in deliberations, and the judge is taking that argument into consideration. And we're also learning that both the defense and all the defense attorneys and the prosecutors are sort of sequestered off to their sides of the courtroom as they weigh these latest developments coming out of this trial. But the biggest takeaway right now, Will, is I can tell you jurors were unable to reach that unanimous consensus on racketeering conspiracy, the most serious charge in this case. If jurors had found Diddy guilty on that charge, he would have been sentenced to life in prison. But we are going to stay out here at the courthouse, continue to monitor these developments. Jurors have now been deliberating for about 13 hours between yesterday and today. Will, I want to send it back over to you.
All right, thank you, CB. I just want to clarify the top line once again. So on count 1, racketeering conspiracy, which, as you point out, can carry with it a potential life sentence. The jury has not been able to reach a consensus. But on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, sex trafficking by force, transportation for prostitution, sex trafficking by force again, these charges, the jury was capable of coming back, CB, right? And what was their verdict?
Will, correct. So we don't know what their verdict was on those charges, but they just told the court in this note that they reached a consensus on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. And Will, if I may, walk our viewers through those charges. Count 2, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. That related to Diddy's ex-girlfriend and accuser, Cassie Ventura. Count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution. That also related to Cassie Ventura. Count 4, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. That related to Diddy, one of Diddy's another ex-girlfriend and accuser who testified under the pseudonym Jane. And count 5, transportation to engage in prostitution. That also related to Jane. And if I may go back to the counts 2 through 5, Will, just to unpack this a little bit, because it's a pretty convoluted case, right? So prosecutors allege that Diddy recruited and enticed Cassie into drug-fueled sex parties with male escorts called freak-offs. And during their closing argument, they pointed out to jurors, they said Cassie never did a freak-off without drugs. They also said the freak-offs took place throughout the course of their entire 11-year relationship. When it comes to count 3, the transportation to engage in prostitution, prosecutors pointed out to jurors all of the hotel, bank, and flight records that they say show the times where Cassie and Diddy flew male escorts across state lines for freak-offs. Count 4, another count of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion related to Jane. Prosecutors for this specific count, they point to 3 specific hotel nights between Diddy and Jane that they say were sex trafficking. One time, September 2023 in New York City, another time, October 2023, and a third time, June 2024. The last time, that June 2024 instance, prosecutors really shared a lot of details about that, and they elicited a lot of testimony from Jane about that time because they say it was a freak-off where Jane and Diddy were involved in a domestic violence situation with each other. And at the end of it, Jane testified that Diddy gave her a drug to make her high and then forced her to have sex with a male escort. And then count 5, transportation to engage in prostitution as it relates to Jane. Again, prosecutors pointed out to jurors flight, bank, and hotel records where they say male escorts were transported across state lines to have sex with Jane. Will, if I may, I'm pulling up my email right now just so I can see the latest that we have from the courtroom. Right now, one of our courtroom producers says everyone is in their seats. Diddy is seated with his hands in his lap, and he's having a conversation with his defense attorney, Tinny Garagos, and they're whispering the details. In terms, now that we've just unpacked the charges, Will, I should also mention the ambiance, how it feels out here outside the courtroom.
All right, we know that. So this is the only time we're going to talk about it. I don't really, I mean, it's really a reflection of fallen culture. And people ask, why did he by himself? There's a lot of stuff in our chat asking about some of the charges. What you're looking at right here is a fall guy. Diddy was promoted and pushed, as Cat Williams said at the beginning of this year, installed to push degeneracy, to push hip hop, and to make it more mainstream. Right, with the Bad Boy, Death Row feud, and all these other things. And if you notice, hip hop, while still popular, is starting to kind of wane in popularity. People are kind of getting tired of it. It's kind of all the same thing. There's nothing new about it. It doesn't really add a lot to the table. So his time is essentially over, and that's why this is all taking place. My view, he was installed to help push hip hop music. Now that he's served his purpose, they're throwing all these things at him. And you know, let's see, where was it? That's most likely what's going to happen. I'm not going to say it because YouTube is not a fan of things like that. But at the same time, he's being set up for pretty much a huge failure. And you know what? What do you say? You dance with the devil, and this is what happens. So it is what it is on that. Oh yeah. It's always funny, like the upper echelons participate in all these kinds of things, but they got to throw somebody to the wolves. So it is what it is. That's why I didn't take a huge interest in this quote unquote case, because that's all I really thought about it. And so it's really it on that. We're not going to, I know some people did all kinds of like deep dives and all this other stuff. We ain't doing that here because it's gross. So I even feel gross even having to do that report, but that's the news of the day. We talk about the news of the day for it. Last story. I'm actually not going to show the trailer. I thought about this. And I value my audience too much in order to do it because, you know, our Lord's name is taken in vain a couple times. There's cursing and things like that. So we're going to talk about the fact that Glenn Powell's movie that comes out in November called The Running Man, which is the remake of the classic Arnold Schwarzenegger film, is coming out. And the first trailer dropped today. Couple things to notice. I like Glenn Powell. I think Glenn Powell is very charismatic. I think he's copyright. There's really no problem with copyright because I just flash fair use. I haven't been knock on wood. I haven't been struck copyright wise on trailers so far. Because I know some bigger creators are like, oh, they strike me every time. Maybe because I'm a nobody. That helps as well. But so Edgar Wright, who a lot of people like, he directed Ant-Man, Baby Doll, bunch of other films. Very talented. He's adapting the Stephen King novel, which stars Glenn Powell as a man who becomes embroiled in this killer game show, headed to theaters on November 7th. Powell plays Ben Richards, a contestant on the show The Running Man, a show that sees contestants hunted for sport. Coleman Domingo plays the host of the show, while Katie O'Brien, I don't know if you, and Daniel Ezra, if you've ever heard of these people, I haven't, play other contestants on the show. Josh Brolin is the show's producer, and Jane Lawson is his wife, Shelley, which is very funny that it's an interracial couple. Listen, as a man who is in an interracial marriage, I'm married to a beautiful Latina, beautiful Mexican woman. Wouldn't have it any other way. But the big thing in that is my wife and I are both Catholic. And I don't really care about interracial marriages as long as they're both Catholic because they at least have similar culture and background. But the fact that they couldn't help themselves, they had to give Glenn Powell like a black wife. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just couldn't have a same. I'm going to be called a racist for it, but you know what it is. Anyway, and this is no offense to Jane Lawson. Jane Lawson was offered the part and she took it. So I'm cool. Whatever, man. Go ahead. You do you. If you get offered a part in a movie, I say you take it. It's more the producers or any of these others. Yeah, Filipino. I don't have as much of a problem with you mean Domingo, the host of the show? But I don't really mind that as much. It looks like, of course, it's bonkers with energy and excitement. It looks okay. I do have a problem with the fact that it was like a 3-minute trailer. 3-minute trailers, and I agree with Brett Dasovich from Pop Culture Crisis on this idea. Trailers should not be longer than a minute, especially it's June. The movie doesn't come out for like another 5 months. You don't want a 3-minute trailer as your first trailer. It gives too much away. I am still of the belief that trailers should be teasers, not just teaser trailers. Like trailers should be a minute and they should give you a basic idea of what the story is. And that's it. And so the idea that you have to have a 3-minute trailer is a little nerve-wracking because maybe the studio doesn't have as much faith in it or whatever the case may be. But like I said, I'm not going to show it. You can go find it if you want. If you know, I'm not a big fan of our Lord's name being taken in vain and all of these other kinds of things that happen in there. So I wouldn't recommend it if you're into that. You probably won't even end up seeing it. Because it's another remake. It is what it is, but it's just another remake. So, I don't really understand that concept, but we'll see, how it goes. It's going to be interesting to see if they continue to drop the next trailer they'll probably drop is in like the end of August, maybe beginning of September. Is that going to be another 3-minute trailer? That's a problem they're having with Superman right now, is that you had like 4 trailers and they're dropping clips of that movie every other day. And it's like, we're good. We'll go see the stupid movie. Stop doing this. The marketing departments are just so bad at this point that they're giving the stupid movie away before you even walk into it. And so people are kind of getting sick of that stuff. And I think that's obviously the case. So, you know, drop today. If you're out, you can find it if you want. Yeah, DC just Bellator. I think DC's so scared at this point. They're so scared that nobody's going to go see it because they have so much. If Superman flops, and I mean, it's got to make 800 million. It's got to make between 750 and 800 million to be considered a success. If it doesn't get there, then the entire, comic book movies are dead, because Fantastic Four is going to bomb. So they are so, you can feel the nerves every time they drop another clip. It's like, just stop doing it. Just stop, please. You don't need to do it anymore. All right. That's it for this episode of RickCast. Look at this. I gave you 40 plus minutes. It's not going to be like that tomorrow, because I'm going to be on Crash Cannon tomorrow night at 7:30 Central Time. 7:30 Central Time. I'm going to be on Crash Cannon. I will show this again, because why not? I want to promote the young man, or the dude. He was nice enough to ask me to come on his show, and so I will promote it as much as possible. So it's Crash Cannon on X. Crash Cannon, just type in Crash Cannon. That is his page. He's a newer channel that's coming out. He's actually had some pretty good interviews so far. Obviously, with me, it's the best. But I will be with him tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central Time. So we're going to have to cut the show. We're going to have to be real tight with tomorrow's show. And then, of course, Friday, I'll be here. Hopefully, you'll be here for the 4th of July as well. That's it for this episode of RickCast, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a favor on your way out. If you liked what we did today, or even if you didn't like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Helps the show grow. I want to thank everybody on Rumble and on YouTube and on X and on, especially on Getter, where we're over 1,000 on Getter. 1.1 thousand people watching on Getter right now. So thank you to you guys. So I will talk to you all tomorrow. It's going to be a tight show tomorrow, so we'll make sure that is. And then you'll see me on Crash Cannon if you want. God bless. And until that day comes, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you tomorrow night. Free Dexter Taylor.